Good morning. Welcome to How Do I with Quality Sewing and Vacuum. I'm Robin Coffin, one of the general managers, and this morning we're going to make pillowcases. This is a fun and fast, easy project. 3 strips of fabric and you've got lots of potential. I'm going to set this aside. First thing you need to do is cut the body of your pillowcase. Is going to be 27 inches by the width of the fabric. The cuff, you're going to cut a 9-inch strip with the fabric. And for the optional accent piece is a 2-inch strip. The 2-inch strip you are going to press in half. I've got this one all ready to go. So we're going to layer this. We're going to use what's called a burrito style to make our pillowcase. The first thing I'm going to do is lay the cuff out right side up. And then I'm going to lay the accent piece on top of that along the top edge. And finally, the body of the pillowcase. This is a directional print, and I want the print with the flowers to go against the cuff, so I make sure I have all of my little happy flowers right side up against the cuff. Again, we're just going to lay that out. I'm going to start by just tacking this in a few places across with my Wonder Clips. So matching my edges, I'm going to start here. Clip that. I'm going to move to the center. And then to the other edge. And then, as I said, this is called a burrito pillowcase because we are going to take our main fabric, fold it up, leaving it about 1 inch from the top, fold it again, and just keep folding this until it's just a couple of inches wide. And then we're going to make a burrito. We're going to fold our cuff up over the top of this and clip that, go to the end, back to the other end, and I'm going to add a few more because we've got 5 layers of fabric that we're going to be stitching through, and we want those layers to stay together. So we've got our main body, our accent piece folded over, and then our cuff rolled around to make our burrito. Make sure they're all lined up. A couple more on the other end. You can make these, if you all you have is just a straight stitch sewing machine, you can make these, or you can make them on the serger. I'm going to complete this one on the serger, but then I'll show you the French seam on the sewing machine, which gives you just a great finished seam. All right, so I've got that all tacked together. I'm going to step over here to the serger. That one down. I'm going to raise the foot so I can get this tucked right up underneath. Right up to the blade. And you want to do about a 1/2 to a 5/8 inch seam allowance on this. I'm just going to go along. When I get to the clip, I'm going to remove that, make sure all my layers are lined up, and just continue right down. You see, I'm holding my fingers here to make sure my burrito doesn't move in. We don't want our inside of our pillowcase to get caught up in our stitching. They're just moving. Okay, now it's a little close here, so when I take this one off, I'm actually going to tuck my body of my pillowcase back just a little bit more. Get those layers lined up. Line those all up. That bottom layer wants to sneak out a little bit. And right off the end. With the serger, you can just serge right off, cut that tail, and now the magic. I'm going to fold this back, and then I'm going to pull the center out. Just keep pulling. Almost there. And there we have our flat pillowcase. Now we're going to move back over here to the iron, and I'm going to iron that cuff out flat if I don't trip over the cord. First thing I like to do is just start from the back and just press this up so that we have a nice crisp fold on the back all the way across. Once I have that, I'll turn it over and press the other side. Make sure that's nice and crisp so that our accent layer shows its full color. This pressing mat's a little bit small. If you're on an ironing board, you could lay the whole thing out and go across. Almost there. All right, so that's pressed. Now we are going to fold this in half. We need to cut this to size. We cut it with the fabric, but we need that to be 40 inches wide. So folding it in half, I'm going to cut it to 20 inches, which will give us our size. If you look for this pattern online, a lot of times they tell you to cut it to size before you stitch it, but I found I had better results when I did the width of fabric and then cut it down. So I am going to measure, need 20 inches. I'm going to line up there, and then I'm going to line up on my cutting mat. Right there, everything's nice and square. So you end up cutting about 4 inches off or 2 inches on either side. Come across here. Make sure you put extra pressure when you get to the cuff because you've got more layers and it's a little bit harder sometimes to get through that. So that's that. Now we're going to fold this right sides together. I'm going to go back over to the serger and make our seam. At this point, I like to put one wonder clip right at this seam to make sure that as I'm going that everything stays together and our cuff is all lined up. And again, that 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch seam. all the way down the side. I'm just going to serge off and then finish the bottom. Like that. And just like that, we have a completed pillowcase. Got our corners. And just like that, we have a pair. Now this one, as you just saw, was on the serger. This one I did the French seam on my sewing machine. So with a French seam, everything is encased, so you have no raw edges. And it's really very easy to do. And it looks very, very finished and like you really put a lot of work into it. So I'm going to turn over here to the sewing machine and I'll show you how easy a French seam is. Sorry, that was... Wait for my machine to wake up here. So on this machine, and on a lot of machines, you have quilting stitches. So I don't have to use anything other than the standard foot. I can go to this stitch, moves the needle to the right side, and by using the edge of my foot, I'll have a perfect 1/4 inch seam. So we're going to come here, follow the edge of the foot. Quadrant seam allowance. I'm going to move this over to the iron and press it flat. This fabric you can't tell, I should have mentioned. This is stitched right sides together. No, wrong sides together, I'm sorry. Wrong sides together. Now I'm going to turn it with right sides together and press this flat. Then we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch 3/8 to 1/2 inch from the edge. With this, I can go to this stitch, which moves my needle all the way to the right and gives me a 3/8 of an inch. That's going to encase that raw edge inside the seam. And again, we can use the edge of our foot as our guide. Now, turn it right side out. And we have a perfect encased seam with no raw edges. Press that. And that would make your seam on your pillowcase. So with that, you can see how quick and easy those go. I've got my fabric chosen for my next project. I've got spring pillowcases ready to go, and I can't wait to get started on them.